Why God created natural laws and causes. In the next world, the realm of power, God will execute His will directly. As there will be no causes, everything will happen instantaneously. But here, in the realm of wisdom, the divine name, the all-wise requires the divine power to operate behind the veil of causes and laws for several reasons, among them the following. Opposites are mingled in this world: truth with falsehood, light with darkness, good with evil, and so on. Since our human nature inclines toward both good and evil, we are tested to see whether or not we will use our free will and other faculties in the way of truth and good. Divine wisdom requires that causes and laws should conceal the operations of divine power. If God had willed, He could train the planets with His hands in a way that we could see, or He could have them administered by visible angels. If this were the case, we would not need to speak of the laws or causes involved. To communicate His commandments, He could speak to each individual directly, without sending prophets. To make us believe in His existence and oneness, He could write His name with stars in the sky. But then our earthly existence would not be an arena of trial. As a result of this trial, since the time of Adam and Eve, good and evil flow through this world into the next to fill its two mighty pools of paradise and hell. Like a mirror's two sides, existence has two aspects or dimensions: one visible and material, the realm of opposites and in most cases imperfections, and a spiritual realm that is transparent, pure, and perfect. There can be, and actually are, events and phenomena in the material dimension that we do not like. Those who cannot perceive the divine wisdom behind all things may criticize the Almighty for such events and phenomena. To prevent that, God made natural laws and causes veil His acts. For example, so that we should not criticize either God or His angel of death for our own or others' deaths, God placed disease and natural disasters, among other agents or causes, between Himself and death. Due to this world's essential imperfection, we experience many deficiencies and shortcomings. In absolute terms, every event and phenomenon is good and beautiful in itself and in its consequences. Whatever God does or decrees is good, beautiful, and just. Injustice, ugliness, and evil are only apparent or superficial, and arise from human error and abuse. For example, a court may rule against us unjustly, but we should know that destiny permitted it because of a concealed crime belonging to us. Whatever befalls us usually is due to self-wronging or an evil we have done. However, those who cannot understand the divine wisdom behind events and phenomena may impute the resulting apparent ugliness or evil, imperfection and shortcoming, directly to God, although He has no defect or imperfection. To prevent such a mistake, His glory and grandeur require that natural causes and laws conceal His acts, while belief in His unity demands that those causes and laws not be ascribed to any creative power. If God Almighty acted here directly, we could not have developed science, known happiness, or be free of fear and anxiety. Thanks to God's acting behind natural causes and laws, we can observe and study patterns in phenomena. Otherwise, each event would be a miracle. The regular flux and mutability of events and phenomena makes them comprehensible to us, and so awakens our desire to wonder and reflect, which is a principal factor in science. For the same reason, to some degree we can plan and arrange our affairs. What would our lives be like if we were not sure that the sun would rise tomorrow? Whoever has such attributes as beauty and perfection desires to know them and make them known. God owns absolute beauty and perfection, and, being independent of all things, needs nothing. He also owns a holy and transcendent love, and has a sacred desire to manifest His beauty and perfection. If He manifested His names and attributes directly, we could not endure them. He therefore manifests them behind causes and laws, and by degrees within the confines of time and space, so that we can build a connection with them and reflect on and perceive them. The gradual manifestation of divine names and attributes is also a reason for our curiosity and wonder about them. These 4 points constitute only some of the reasons why God acts through natural laws and causes. Endnote. God, the all-knowing, all-determining, and all-powerful. In his book, Man Does Not Stand Alone, A.C. Morrison draws our attention to the many beauties and complicated phenomena in nature. Life is a sculptor and shapes all living things, an artist that designs every leaf of every tree, that colors the flowers, the apple, the forest, and the plumage of the bird of paradise. Life is a musician and has taught each bird to sing its love songs, the insects to call each other in the music of their multitudinous sounds. Life has given to man alone mastery over combined sound vibrations, and has furnished the material for their production. Life is an engineer, for it has designed the legs of the grasshopper and the flea, the coordinated muscles, levers, and joints, the tireless beating heart, the system of electric nerves of every animal, and the complete system of circulation of every living thing. Life is a chemist that gives taste to our fruits and spices, and perfume to the rose. Life synthesizes new substances which nature has not yet provided to balance its processes and to destroy invading life. Life's chemistry is sublime, for not only does it set the rays of the sun to work to change water and carbonic acid into wood and sugar, but in doing so releases oxygen that animals may have the breath of life. Life is a historian, for it has written its history page by page through the ages, leaving its record in the rocks, an autobiography which only awaits correct interpretation. Life protects its creations by the abundance of food in the egg, and prepares many of its infants for active life after birth, or by conscious motherhood stores food in preparation for her young. Life produces life-giving milk to meet immediate needs, foreseeing this necessity and preparing for events to come. Matter has never done more than its laws decree. The atoms and molecules obey the dictates of chemical affinity, the force of gravity, the influences of temperature and electric impulses. Matter has no initiative, but life brings into being marvelous new designs and structures. What life is, no man has yet fathomed. It has no weight or dimensions. Nature did not create life. Fire-blistered rocks and a saltless sea did not meet the necessary requirements. Gravity is a property of matter. Electricity we now believe to be matter itself. The rays of the sun and stars can be deflected by gravity and seem to be akin to it. Man is learning the dimensions of the atom and is measuring its locked-up power. But life is elusive, like space. Why? Life is fundamental and is the only means by which matter can attain understanding. Life is the only source of consciousness, and it alone makes possible knowledge of the works of God, which we, still half blind, yet know to be good. Morrison writes further, "The robin that nested at your door goes south in the fall, but comes back to his old nest the next spring. In September, flocks of most of our birds fly south, often over 1,000 miles of open ocean, but they do not lose their way. The homing pigeon, confused by new sounds on a long journey in a closed box, circles for a moment and then heads almost unerringly for home. The bee finds its hive, while the wind waving the grasses and trees blot out every visible guide to its whereabouts. This homing sense is slightly developed in man, but he supplements his meager equipment with instruments of navigation. The tiny insects must have microscopic eyes, how perfect we do not know, and the hawks, the eagle, and the condor must have telescopic vision. Here again, man surpasses them with his mechanical instruments. If you let old Dobbin alone, he will keep to the road in the blackest night. The owl can see the nice warm mouse as he runs in the cooler grass in the blackest night. The ordinary scallop, whose muscle we eat, has several dozen beautiful eyes very like ours, which sparkle because each eye has unnumbered little reflectors, which are said to enable it to see things right side up. These reflectors are not found in the human eye. Were these reflectors developed because of the absence of superior brain power in the scallop? As the number of eyes in animals ranges from 2 to thousands, and all are different, nature would have had a big job in developing the science of optics, unless God, the all-knowing, all-determining, and all-powerful, had predestined and predetermined everything. The honeybee is not attracted by the gaudy flowers as we see them, but sees by the ultraviolet light, which may make them even more beautiful to bees. From the rays of slower vibrations to the photographic plate and beyond are realms of beauty, joy, and inspiration. The honeybee workers make chambers of different sizes in the comb used for breeding. Small chambers are constructed for the workers, larger ones for the drones, and special chambers for the prospective queens. The queen bee lays unfertilized eggs in the cells designed for males, but lays fertilized eggs in the proper chambers for the male workers and the possible queens. The workers, who are the modified females, having long since anticipated the coming of the new generation, are also prepared to furnish food for the young bees by chewing and pre-digesting honey and pollen. They discontinue the process of chewing, including the pre-digesting, at a certain stage of development of the males and females, and feed only honey and pollen. The females so treated become the workers. The dog with an inquiring nose can sense the animal that has passed. No instrument of human invention has added to our inferior sense of smell, and we hardly know where to begin to investigate its extension. All animals hear sounds, many of which are outside our range of vibration, with an acuteness that far surpasses our limited sense of hearing. The young salmon spends years at sea, then comes back to its own river and, what is more, it travels up the side of the river into which flows the tributary in which it was born. If a salmon going up a river is transferred to another tributary, it will fight its way down to the main stream and then turn up against the current to finish its destiny. There is, however, a much more difficult problem in the exact reverse to solve in the case of the eel. These amazing creatures migrate at maturity from all the ponds and rivers everywhere. Those from Europe across thousands of miles of ocean all go to the abysmal deeps south of Bermuda. There they breed and die. The little ones, with no apparent means of knowing anything except that they are in a wilderness of water, start back and find their way to the shore from which their parents came, and thence to every river, lake, and little pond, so that each body of water is always populated with eels. Animals seem to have telepathy. Who has not watched with admiration the sandpiper, flying and wheeling till every white breast shows in the sunlight at the same instant? A female moth placed in your attic by the open window will send out some subtle signal. Over an unbelievable area, the male moths of the same species will watch the message and respond in spite of your attempts to produce laboratory odors to disconcert them. Vegetation makes subtle use of involuntary agents to carry on its existence. Insects to carry pollen from flower to flower, and the winds and everything that flies or walks to distribute seed. At last, vegetation has trapped masterful man. He has improved nature, and she generously rewards him. But he has multiplied so prodigiously that he is now chained to the plow. He must sow, reap, and store, breed and crossbreed, prune and graft. Should he neglect these chores, starvation would be his lot, civilization would crumble, and earth return to her pristine state. Are all these habits or distinctive instinctive acts, which must have their origin deep at the beginning of life on earth, the result of chance or of an intelligent provision? Should we reflect on why certain animals are more developed than human beings in having certain faculties? Among all living creatures that have roamed the earth, none has a record of reasoning power which may compare with that of humanity. What we call nature is utterly blind and senseless, unconscious and ignorant. Men and women, who are the only intelligent beings on earth, can do nothing other than to try to explain all these miraculous phenomena. They cannot even control their own bodies. Does all this not display a supreme determination, all-encompassing knowledge, and an absolute power, and thereby one who has these?